Hello and welcome to Jaida's cookbook. On today's menu, we're going to be making some heart-shaped macarons. My recipe comes from Fiona at Just So Tasty and the Bouchon Bakery cookbook. So let's get started. Alrighty, so first we're going to do a little prep work because once we get going, it's going to be very hard to do what I need to do then and there. So I'm going to get a piping tip that I'm going to use to pipe my macarons. The recipe says an 8 or a 10 size piping tip. 10 right here. I'm going to prepare my piping bag. I don't know if this was a big enough hole. So the thing about macarons is there are multiple different techniques. First method is the French method, and that involves the classic whisking of the egg whites until they form stiff peaks. And then it is Italian, and the Italian involves making a syrup and whisking it until you get meringues and then mixing it. I really like the Italian method because I don't have to worry about letting my macarons form a shell before I put them in the oven, and I'll go more into that in a little bit. So the method I'm going to be using today is the Italian. I'm going to be making a hot syrup and then whisking it until it reaches stiff peaks. So the method I'm going to be using today is the Italian method. I find it works a lot easier for me. It involves the hot sugar and mixing into a meringue. I already have my ingredients measured out, which saves a lot of time. I'm going to measure out 2 quantities of egg whites. One of them is going to go in my almond flour and powdered sugar mixture. One of them is going to go in the stand mixer. That was not. Separator. Ooh. These are room temperature eggs, so the warmer they are, the more the egg yolks kind of bond with the egg whites, and it's harder to separate it like this. So we're gonna try that again. This particular method that I'm doing, don't quote me on this, but I don't think I have to be as precise with the egg whites. I'm going to, because I don't want to take any chances. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to be out of the gate whipping the egg whites by themselves. So it's going to be a lot more stable, so it's going to be a lot more room for error for me, what I'm trying to say. So we're going to try it like this. Okay. Ha! 82 grams. Two more.
Look at that egg yolk on the counter.
That was what I used to be afraid of when I was in school. I felt like I had this pressure to be like, oh my gosh, I have to be so precise. They're gonna yell at me if I get it even over what it needs to be, and no one's gonna die if it's 1, or even if it's 5 grams over what it needs to be. Ideally, you don't want it to be, but if it is, it's not the end of the world. So before we did this, I went ahead and I lined 2 of my baking sheets with parchment paper, and I drew little hearts stencils with Sharpie, and then I laid my silicone down over it so I have a little stencil for when I get my macaron batter mix. All I have to do is go in and pipe it, and then we just assemble our piping bag. Measured out the egg whites. So now I'm gonna preheat my oven to 350. When I was in culinary school, take a shot every time I say that in this video. I actually attempted this exact recipe, and before that we tried doing the French method where we just mixed the egg whites and we had to pipe them out and wait till we got the shell. But the thing about it is, when you live in Florida, the humidity is god awful. So that's the cool thing about baking, is it's literally a science. So we were in a very, very cold kitchen, and it was very humid outside. So those were not good factors for the French method. I tried to make them using the French method, I think 3 or 4 times, and every time we went to check on the shells to see if we had a shell, no shell. They were still very liquidy, and I was like, what is going on? Am I doing this wrong? Is something going on? Then my instructor was like, I don't think this is a good recipe because of these factors. And I was like, do you think it could be because it's so cold in here or whatever? He was like, yeah, maybe it could be. So then we switched over to this recipe, and on the first try, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but on the first try, they came out very, very, very well. We did it. Oh, macarons, look at that footing. And then we have the shiny top. It's crunchy and it's flaky and it's delicious. Only thing, y'all, I did everything right, but I forgot to flip the parchment. So, they have the Sharpie ones on them, so I can't eat them. I can't try them, but I know they're delicious. I mean, I could have done some things better, but I got footing, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but footing is a little perimeter around the macaron. I'll insert a picture, but
I will insert a picture. Say my editor will insert a picture.
But yeah, so I had footing, which was very exciting because if you know anything about macarons, footing is a very essential part. And they held their shape, they had a shell, and all was well in the world. So this is my savior recipe. That's the thing I really, really love about culinary school. They're all about creative freedom. Yes, we had lessons on certain days, but if you went up to my instructor and like, hey, I saw this recipe and I really want to try it, he's like, okay, go ahead. We got the stuff in there, go make it. Tell me how it turns out. And that was what I was doing with the macarons. That week was Mother's Day week. Like the Mother's Day was coming up that weekend. So that whole week I was trying to perfect the macarons. My mom doesn't really like sweets, but I mean,
It's Mother's Day.
it's Mother's Day, yeah. It was the thought. So now what we're gonna make a little well in the center, making sure to leave some flour at the bottom. We're gonna pour not this one. Why does this look like more? Okay, well, we'll come back to this.
What is that thing?
This little fella.
There we go. Hold on, don't move.
I thought it was like vanilla extract or like almond extract. So I was very confused when it wasn't in the normal, like this big container. I was like, what is this? What is this supposed to do? It's not gonna last me very long. I made macarons, funny enough, and I put this in here, and I think I did maybe 2 drops, and it was very, very potent. So I was like, okay, I get it now.
Okay, I understand it
I
now.
understand it now. So with that being said, we're gonna put a little bit in here. Just to be a little festive. Oh, see, that was a lot. I like saying that.
That can be another one of your catchphrases. You won't die. You can smell it from here.
You can smell it from here. Wow, you're amazed, huh? We're gonna take our second quantity of egg whites and put them in this stand mixer. So we're gonna kind of have to multitask here. So this is gonna be very interesting. All right, so here's the rundown.
This bowl is going to be egg whites and a pinch of sugar. And then in this saucepan with this candy thermometer, it's going to be sugar and water. So the sugar and water is going to heat up. This is going to be our syrup that we add in here and mix to our meringue. So we're going to put sugar and water in here and wait till it gets to 203 degrees. When we get back to 203 degrees, we're going to run over here, add a pinch of sugar, and start whisking our eggs till they form soft peaks. We're going to come back here and wait till this gets to 248 degrees. When it gets to 248 degrees, we're gonna pour it in
here, and then we're gonna whisk to our heart's content. Okay? We got it? You hear me? Eggs go in. Water.
Oh, I didn't know that had water in it.
And the sugar.
Azúcar.
Oh, azúcar. Okay.
Oh, I didn't know that's what you're trying to say.
So we're gonna put this The recipe is telling me to start with whisking this while that gets going, but I am afraid that in the time it takes to heat the sugar and water mixture up, the soft peaks are gonna already have formed. So I'm gonna give it like a 2-3 minute head start, and then we're gonna start whisking. Yes.
This is what you have left to spin. I want to put that.
So we have our stiff peaks. If this is really stiff, you should be able to hold it over your head and none of it fall out.
Let's see.
Stiff peaks. We're going into our macaronage stage where we whip or we mix the egg whites and our almond flour mixture until they form a ribbon consistency, which is when you take your batter and you put it in like a figure 8 or a ribbon figure, and it kind of holds its shape a little bit, but it's not too thick. This is the tricky part where people overmix or they undermix. The guide says, what is it? They'd rather you undermix than overmix. This in. Do this in small increments. Every time I use this die, I end up with bloody fingers. Did you get that? It's just hurting my arm. And we're gonna pipe. Future me here. Here are some notes. The first batch that I made, I took out too early and I tried to put them in and it didn't work. It was a fail. They were a little brown. The second batch, I used the piping tips, but my batter was way too thick, so they didn't really turn out the best. But definitely better than the first batch. The third and final batch, I used just a plain piping bag and just piped them out because it was too thick to squeeze through the piping tips. I do like the way these turned out the most. They definitely were the better of the batches. They kind of look like Madeline cookies, but I do plan to address these problems and I will not stop until they are perfect. Until next time, I hope you guys enjoy this video. See you soon!